and flew it right off the bat. Here we are at Cheyenne. This is Glen Witt, and Glen never bought a kit, never bought a plan. He would go ahead and see an airplane he liked in a magazine, take out his proportional dividers, and that's the end result. He did excellent work, and this was his Debolt, what do you call it? Forgot the name. Anyway, this is out on Buffalo Ridge in Cheyenne. This whole area that you see behind us is now covered with houses. Now covered with houses. He was having trouble getting an ROG. And there we are out in Buffalo Ridge. You can see all that open area out there. Well, all that was out there was a few cattle. And it's all covered with houses now. Now, this is looking from our flying site back toward the road. That's my white Rambler. That's his blue Plymouth. And about another quarter of a mile beyond the road is where I lived. And he had a control air. It was very good radio because control air used toroids. He had nothing wrong with that radio and reads. It was just, he wasn't a very good pilot. Now we have to walk for 100 yards to get back to the road. And the guy carrying the wing is Jim Erb, who was another modeler from Cheyenne and a real nice guy. And anyway, I gave him a Sterling ship, you know, that tramp steamer or that steamer. He cut it in half, made two monstrous plaques to put up on his wall. This is Glen Witt's aircraft that he made. This is my aircraft, which was an aircraft that I got from Lou Lucci, and it was, we're back to Hawaii. Sorry about that. We're back to Hawaii-Barber's Point. That previous airplane was Jim Kirkland's Beachcomber, and I was flying it on reeds at that time. This is a Sultan being flown out of Barber's Point. It's purple. And I forget the guy who flew it. He was quite a character. We had a huge guy out there that used to play for the Honolulu Symphony. You just saw an old hangar from the old Barber's Point. Here this guy is. He's flying his orbit-equipped purple Sultan. And he lands. And he does his thing. See all the weeds out there? There's a smog hog on orbit reeds. And here we go again. And he just went right through the weeds. And it made it okay. E.G. Oshiro, when we were flying at Dillingham, had a smog hog that he forgot to turn the receiver on. It went straight out to sea, and it was gone for 2 weeks, and the fisherman brought it back. It was waterlogged and floating in the thing, and of course, the engine and all the radio equipment was ruined, but the airplane flew again. Anyway, this fisherman brought it. There I am cranking my Qualifier 1. That's my Oldsmobile 88 Holiday. That Astro Hog there was Colonel Herb Ross. I'll tell you about him later. There's the owner of the hobby shop right there. His name was Ted Freitas. There I am taxiing out I had a Super Tiger 56 on a Qualifier 1, and I'm flying reeds, 12 channel, and a Super Tiger 56. I had built that airplane. There's Howard Hole flying. I had built that airplane, and I had the wing all built, and I started to cover it, and it just started breaking apart. Aerogloss glue. I threw the wing away and built another brand new wing. This is Howard Hole with the fact that his radio wasn't working. He was the local radio guru, as I told you. Anyway, here's some more stuff going on. You can see my hat there. See my good-looking legs. This is a modified Astro Hog. This belongs to the local. This is an Astro Hog kit that I brought him from the Tachikawa PX, and he built. Like I said, he's the local hobby shop owner. He was also a manufacturing jeweler. His brother was a jeweler and designer. Come on. And he used to bring the projects into his brother and Ted here, and Ted would work on the making of necklaces and things like that from scratch using platinum and silver solder and what have you. And he would be looking through a slit in the wall while he was building on his precious jewelry. Here's Howard Hole again. He always had his tongue in his cheek and biting his tongue. And there he goes. And this time his radio works. All the radios he worked on for other guys worked fine, but his own radios didn't work worth 2 cents. And I knew a guy that was like that in Dover, Delaware. Could build anything, but he couldn't solder. This is Bob again. Bob Barnes, I got his name wrong. And there is my number 2 qualifier. And that's me bending over. There is me again, taxiing out. Somebody else is holding the camera. You can tell it's not me. And I was saying to somebody something there. And I'm taxiing around and burning up fuel. This is qualifier number 1. And when I threw the qualifier wing away, I built a new wing, and I used strip ailerons. Now, what I did with this airplane, I did something most unusual. I built the thing like Jerry Nelson's plan showed, except for the strip ailerons. That's me. But I went ahead and I balanced the thing. Finally, I kept moving the balance back and moving. I had 55% is where the balance was. It never snapped. It never did anything. And once you get it airborne with power on and trimmed it in the elevator, you didn't have to touch it anymore. Upside down, right side up, approaches, landings, takeoffs, anything. This airplane was squat when it came in to land, and it would also drop its tail when it was inverted, so you didn't have to put in trim. Worked like a champ, never had the slightest tendency to snap roll at all. And that's kind of a fast takeoff, going up straight up. You see that? I had something in my lens there, a piece of dirt. Anyway, more Barber's Point stuff. And this is somebody waving from a car. Here I am again. And this is my qualifier 1. Orbit reads Super Tiger 56 and 60, and reads 12-channel radio. I had the radio converted from a 10 to a 12 by Dunham. I did a lot of conversions myself. I'd take an Orbit 4 and make it an 8, and I'd take 8s and make them 10s and things like that. But when I went ahead and made the 12, or had the 12 made, I had Dunham do it. That's me. I need a little aileron trim there, and I kept flying instead of, when you don't have aileron trim, you find your airplane's not perfect. That was almost a touch. I don't know what that smoke was. It might have been one of the cane fields being burnt, which is what they used to do out there in Hawaii. When the cane was ready to be harvested, you burned the field, drove the rats out, and got all the leaves off of it. And that was a common sight to see cane fields, sugar cane fields, burning. I guess they call that a 4-point roll with kind of a jerk in the middle while inverted. Rocky, rocky, rocky. It just came in and squatted real nice. Anyway, I was making an approach. I came in at high speed at the camera while the guy was holding the camera and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting. And I came right up very close. We almost hit myself, and then pulled back up and went back over on my back, and I was about 5 feet. And I said, "You get that? You get that? You get that?" And he said, "I had the lens caps on." I said, "You did?" And I forgot all about flying the airplane. And the next thing we knew, we had nothing but a bunch of junk out there. And it was not a through the lens, so he had the lens cap on. We didn't even see the approach from which it crashed out of. All we got was the crash remains after it had crashed, and you saw that. Anyway, he was still flying at Barber's Point and having a ball, burning up fuel. And, of course, fuel and balsa wood wasn't very expensive in those days. And that was Johnson's Tory. And there's Art there. And here's a 12 inches to the foot 707, which was a C-135B belonging to Matt's, coming into land over Barber's Point, going into Hickam or the International Airport. And here's I don't know what it was. Here's Art Johnson flying his brand new Sterling P-63. And you will see he lands them all the same way, nose low. Anyway, Art was a great guy. He used to take his old VO500 button cells that were no good, and he would tape them together in a series parallel thing and use them for booster batteries. And worked fine. Well, the old VO500 was the thing to use in those days, the button cells. And the seals were no good. We had a lot of trouble with them. We lost a lot of cells. And when we started using DM converters, we lost the whole power pack, of course. Here is Art Johnson on his 10-channel radio. And Dunham made two of these radios that looked identical. One was a 6-volt transmitter, one was a 9-volt transmitter. And if you ever shorted out, there you see the nose gear landing, nose down. If you ever landed, or you ever had a shorted out loading coil with the 6-volt transmitter, you lost your airplane. So that's why you went to 9. If you shorted out the loading coil, you still had control. This is